The Olympia Bob Run at St. Moritz in Switzerland, high in the Engadine Valley, over 1,800 metres above sea level. The most historic, the most famous, the most challenging bobsleigh track in the world. And we're here for the fourth and final heat of the Bauhaus FIBT Skeleton Men's World Championships. Well, hello everybody and welcome to a snowy St. Moritz. For those of you who haven't caught up with the action yet today, we've had snow since this morning, the first two heats of the bobsleigh race and the third heat of the men's skeleton competition. Well, after three heats, Germany's Frank Rommel is still lying in fifth position behind our four front runners. And the only man other than Moritz WCh to win a race in the last two full seasons looks as though he may be out of the medals. Sergei Chudinov of Russia lying in third spot. The Russian was third overnight and put down two good runs yesterday, another one today to hang on to third. But he drifted away from Moritz WCh of Latvia. WCh is unused to being headed in any race. It does happen occasionally in one heat, but never usually over two, or God forbid, four. However, three heats in, the gap from overnight 800s has opened up to 4600s behind our Russian leader. Alexander Tretyakov is on target to be the first man since December 2010, other than Rommel or WCh, to win a race. And he could become the first Russian ever to win a Skeleton World Championship gold medal. And after three heats, WCh has still not found an answer to his Russian rival. 4600 seems an insurmountable object. Sergei Chudinov in third may have to be happy with the podium position, but behind him, as we go from 20 down to 1 in this fourth and final heat, we could see all sorts of changes. There are some very close gaps in this field. From 21st, Canada's John Fairbairn on down, the rest of the order after three heats. They will be spectators. Only the fast 20 go through into the final run in World Cup, World Championship and Olympic sliding action. And so we get to the nitty-gritty here in St. Moritz. It's got the location, it's got the glamour, it's got the history, and it has still got the most challenging ice track. Sarah Reid there with the Canadian flag, bronze medalist yesterday. Ice temperature -3, air temperature -3 at the top, down to -5 already at Horseshoe. You can see Marianne Thies and a whole host of other women's skeleton athletes lining the track, watching this final deciding run in the men's World Championships. And they're joined by a large and knowledgeable crowd from Switzerland and a host of other nations. Well, for Russian athletes, the women's race was okay. The men's race could be very special. And for Great Britain, Shelley Rudman won the Women's World Championship yesterday, the first Briton ever to do so. And in fact, only two Britons have claimed World Championship skeleton gold, Shelley and her partner, Kristen Bromley. So rather greedily hoovering it all up in the family. Well, it's Japan's Yuki Sasahara who will be the first man to go in our fourth and final run. He was 20th after three heats, and each slider that follows, except in the heat tie, in the event of a tie, will have a slight advantage or perhaps a large advantage over those that have preceded them. Nevertheless, it still brings us down to the crunch question. Can Tretyakov hold on over four heats to beat the de facto, quote, best man in skeleton, Moritz WCh of Latvia, who has been beaten only twice since December 2010? So let's take a look at our St. Moritz track. The vertical drop 130 metres, the same as the highest building in Switzerland. We're over 1,700 metres above sea level, and this unique track, hand-built every season, the only natural ice barn left on the planet. A long run that doesn't drop away fast, so it allows sprinters like Tretyakov to really accelerate into the first of two kinks and two long, flat, relatively slow 30-mile-an-hour straights. Skids here you'll be paying for the rest of the run. Down to the first name caller, and this is Wall. It's about 150 metres long, and again, with the speeds relatively low, getting the correct line on the exit is going to be absolutely vital. Through Snake, a left-right combination that sets you up for Sunny, one of only two corners on the track with a permanent wall behind it. And then through Nash and Dixon, named after the 64 gold medalists in two-man bobsleigh, the only members of the St. Moritz Bob Club to win Olympic gold. Out of Horseshoe, the line here absolutely vital. Through Telephone, and then through Shamrock. The big corner at Devil's Dyke, really accelerating hard here, 65 to 70 miles an hour on the exit, and then through the fast four right-handers, Tree, Bridge, Leap and Sachs. They flow as one. Get one wrong, they're all wrong, and speed at the bottom here must be carried through Martineau and then over the Cresta Run track which you cross at the bridge here, through Portago, the uphill final corner, and across the line. Well, it's Alexander Tretyakov of Russia who is the start record holder. Frank Rommel set the track record last week in the team's competition. Well, I'm Martin Haven, sitting alongside me is John Morgan. And John, with snow continuing to fall, it's going to mean that there is an added distraction for the athlete. But in the third heat, it didn't seem to make too much difference to the balance of power.
I think they have every person in St. Moritz sweeping the track. It's snow will make a difference, but you'll see a lot of people.
Well, the first of our 20 athletes on the ice is Yuki Sasahara. Just pipped his teammate Hiro Takahashi to get into the top 20. So tough time indeed for the two Japanese sliders who were born just 2 days apart. Good final start from Yuki.
The Japanese, you know, they've made some presence in the sport, but after the Nagano Olympics, they had Kazumiro Koshi, who was, you know, regularly in the top 6 or 7 and winning medals on the World Cup circuit. He's now retired as the coach, and they really haven't had anybody to replace Koshi. And it's just sad because they had such a strong presence in the early part of the last decade in the sport.
Well, Sasahara only 22nd overnight. He had a really good, strong third heat to get himself into this final run. Only the fast 20 go through from heat 3 into heat 4. 99.8 kilometers an hour, not quite as quick as he had in the third heat. The snow's been falling, John, pretty much constantly all day. Hasn't got much heavier, hasn't gone away, and so the athletes should now be used to the conditions.
And it's a very dry snow. There's not a visibility problem where it's sticking on their face mask, and
there was Koshi-san, the coach.
Yeah, their visors. But a lot of people, it looks to me, have changed visors.
Well, quite a lot of them have probably gone for a darker tint because of the white-out conditions. White wall, white floor, white surroundings, white air.
Yeah. You know, again, look at the track. Look at the grooves here at the start. Everybody's got a different technique. Some people go on the right groove, left grooves, where they push from. Everything's different. Into the finish, look at him put his feet up. He's the leader.
He is in the leader's box, and there is the new Skeleton World Champions Trophy. We'll see that awarded in 19 sleds time. Another man who was outside the top 20 in the first 3 heats is Russia's Anton Batuev, 27-year-old from Moscow, making only his second major appearance of the season in top flight competition.
He had a great third run, 25th in the first, 22nd in the second, 18th in the third run. He came out of nowhere to put himself in this position to even have a 4th run. But you say, why couldn't he have done that yesterday?
Well, it may well be that he just didn't quite have the runner set up to suit the conditions yesterday. The sled might not quite have been where he needed it. Maybe he just felt the desperation of that third heat, and 20th place seemingly almost out of reach.
And this is a World Championship Olympic format. 4 heats over 2 days. The World Cup is 2 heats in 1 day. So a lot of these athletes, this is their first overnight race. This is the first time they've had to go to bed thinking about what they have to do tomorrow, and they already had 2 heats in the bank.
He's over a kilometre now, slower than in his last run, but he has got a 1/4 of a second advantage over Yuki Sasahara of Japan. Sasahara's never started a World Cup race. Batuev a handful, 132.1, again a kilometre now down. How close is the gap going to be at the line? Can he stay in front of the Japanese?
Yes.
He does, but not by much. They set identical times on that run, off a 5:13 and a 5:09 start. So Batuev on that run, giving away a little ground to Sasahara, but not too much.
He's in the competition because the Russians won the Junior World Championships, and with that, they qualify a 4th athlete into the competition. Into the horseshoe, the most famous corner in the world. Look at the line, look at the lean. He's leaning hard with the legs, getting himself off for the diagonal crossover from the exit of horseshoe to the take-on to telephone. That's the pivotal part of the track.
Alexander Gassner of Germany. 23-year-old soldier from Winterberg. You'll hear noise at the top and especially at the bottom. Almost everybody responsible for the Winterberg Bob track is here this weekend. And they will be the next World Championship venue for the FIBT Bauhaus Worlds in 2015. No World Champs next year because, oh yeah, we've got the Olympic Games instead. Well, Gassner, 15th, 20th and 11th in his starts in the last 3 heats, so...
17th, 25th, and 17 in 3 runs. I made a mistake. I said the Russians qualified 4 teams in. The Germans qualified 4 teams in.
They have indeed, and this is Gassner. He's the 4th of our German athletes. At least all of them made the top 20 here.
Still not the results the German team were looking for. The Germans women's team had a disastrous World Championships. I just saw Anya Huber, and I asked her, how you doing today? And she said, well, it's sport, you know, but she said when she woke up yesterday morning, she was not in a very good mood.
A little slower at the start than his last run, and better speed out of Horseshoe, gets the exit a little bit tidier. And John, diving off that 30-foot wall is vital for speed down the bottom.
Slingshot effect in the pivotal part of the track. Horseshoe sets you up for everything this track allows you to have. You have to be perfect at Horseshoe, or you'll just be an average placing athlete.
Better speed than the last run, which was a 109.57. Will he go quicker? He does by 200ths, and he stays in the lead.
He had that one bad heat.
Yep.
17, 25th, 17.
And another probably 17th place run. So yeah, you know, consistency is key in a 2-heat race. In a 4-heat race, you can't afford a loose run either. A little relieved but underwhelmed by that.
Horseshoe, watch the line, left side going in, up near the roof, steers properly. Does he come across? You know, that's a high line. The previous sled was a medium-low line.
Well, there is Alexander Gassner, 2010 Junior World Champion. Now the Swiss champion, Lukas Kummer, one of only 2 Swiss athletes. He's the one that made it into the top 20. His teammate didn't.
Good starts, 6th, 5th, and 8th over 3 runs. 18th, 13th, and 16th. So you could see he had a good second run yesterday, and he needs a good second run today, and he'll post his best ever World Championship result. And Martin, I don't care what sport you're in, that PB, personal best, is a very important asset.
Absolutely right. Another blinding start from Lukas Kummer, still young and relatively light as well, one of the lighter athletes, and maybe that's counting against him a little in the snow. The more weight you've got, the easier it is to bust through little drifts of snow.
Well, a lot of pressure on the Swiss skeleton athletes because Switzerland, there's 3 sports they cover: skiing, skiing, and skiing. And the only time they cover bobsled or skeleton is when a Swiss athlete does well. The Swiss haven't had a real prominent Swiss athlete on the podium since Maya Pedersen, and so the sport gets limited coverage in Switzerland. So these Swiss athletes got to perform or there's 0 exposure.
Good speed down the bottom, better than his last run. A 109.35 is a better run as well by 1/4 of a second, so he moves into the lead.
Personal best for World Championships for this young athlete.
And what's really important for him is he was only 400ths behind the German in front of him, Alexander Christopher Grote, rather. So that's a big target.
Small, probably one of the smallest in height, but a very powerful athlete. Look at the legs on him. Look at the drive. Now watch the form here. He's got a medium high line, little trying of adjustment there with the toes. On the exit of Horseshoe to Telephone, we'll show you a lot of those pictures. Lucas, congratulations.
He is the leader, 5'5" and under 10 stone, just 148 pounds, 67 kilos of him. Next is our Junior World Champion, Christopher Grote. Germany have the last 3 Junior World Champions in their squad. And he is the man who won it this season. He gets the free bye. Started ski jumping at age 6, converted to skeleton at 16. Now the ripe old age of 20, and a 5:08 getaway for Christopher Grote.
Well, good start. And you know, Mark, joining us in the booth is yesterday's world champion in women's skeleton, Shelley Rudman. I'm going to let Shelley take over.
Delighted to have Shelley Rudman join us. She's just come back from the top of the track, getting the latest gossip from the British team and partner Kristen Bromley. So catch up with that in a moment. Christopher Grote here going behind Lucas Kummer from the start. Only 200s up in the first 3 heats. And Grote here without so much speed at the start as Lucas Kummer. So he is dropping down the order, and a great exit to the horseshoe corner is absolutely vital. Shelley Rudman, welcome to the booth. Great battles all the way down the order, and this is a classic, just 200s after, what, 4 miles of ice separating these athletes.
Yeah, this is their penultimate round now, and it's everything now to try and gain some positions for their final ranking.
134.6 kilometers an hour at the bottom of the track. Again, better speed than he managed in the 3rd heat, although the snow seems just about as much. And he holds off Lucas Kummer by 1400s. He added 1/10 of a second to his advantage. And while he was thinking maybe about trying to hold off Kummer, he was also looking at his teammate in front, who was 1/10 quicker than him, and trying to claw his way up the order. And Shelley, there's a mental game here, I imagine. Yeah. Unless you're the leader, you've got to be looking at making up positions all the time.
Yeah, for sure. All of these athletes will want to finish this race in the best rank possible, and they'll be trying to correct all of the errors that they made on their first run. Really, he loaded onto the sled then and missed that, so you know that was a bit of a problem for him.
Christopher Grote here is our race leader for Germany, ahead of Lucas Kummer and Alexander Gassner. Well, next up is the 3rd of our 4 German sliders, Alexander Krökel. Krökel, 22 years old, last year's junior world champion. Much taller athlete, 6'2" and 180 pounds, but trouble out of the first corner. He's got a 5 dead start. You can see his first run, 16th, 19th place in the second run, but what a 3rd heat he laid down, Shelley Rudman, to go 7th quickest. His previous day gave no indication he'd find that speed.
He had a really, really good run, and he'll be looking to repeat that again and move up even more.
Well, to go from right at the bottom of the top 20 into 7th place, is that a big equipment change, or is that a resetting of his brain?
It will probably be an equipment change. So, and also maybe if he made some errors yesterday, he would have, corrected those too. Because if you make an error on this track, it really starts to bleed your time, and it can affect maybe 4 sequences. So that's 4 curves on from where you made the mistake. You have to be really accurate.
135.1, 134.4 in the last heat. Again, he's finding better speed. Everybody has found better speed at the bottom. So that could mean that we could get maybe more track records before we get to the end of this competition. Well, Alexander, Krökel moves into the lead, 109.05. His last one was 109.14, so that's 1/10 quicker nearly. So still finding more speed despite this day-long snow.
It is, but it actually looks like it's snowing more out there, so it'll be quite interesting, if it stays consistent with the weather. Or that was a good horseshoe. 3rd best speed. That's pretty good.
Horseshoe, the signature corner here, one of the most famous corners on the planet. There he is, catching snowflakes. Next up, head first, Ed Smith, the first of our 3 male British skeleton sliders.
So he'll be looking to improve his start to gain momentum into the top few curves.
The starts have been 10th, 14th and 7th, and that was a really nice looking load as well. What's he got? Last time 494, 495 in these snowy conditions, Shelley. That's a great getaway.
That is a really, really good push start, and that will lead him really well into sunny curve.
And avoided skids out of kink 1 and kink 2. Head first and nice and straight as an arrow. Well, Ed took a 3rd run yesterday after problems in the track in the 2nd heat.
Yep, Ed went over a branch, so in effect that allowed him to have another run and rerun.
More of a twig than a branch, but anything that slows the sled down by a fraction has got to be considered. So they asked for another option, and he got the chance to go again. 100.2 kilometers an hour, only 99.8 last time. He didn't get a great exit out of horseshoe then, and he has now, but he's dropped behind nonetheless.
Yeah, Ed's just gradually bleeding time on the track, which is going to affect, obviously, his rank. And you'll see whether...
33.6 last time, 134, but Krökel had 135, so he is going to drop a position here, and that's a disappointing end to his World Championships. Tucks his head sideways to avoid dragging on the ice. 109.33, again a tenth better than his last run, Shelley, but not as big an improvement as we saw from Krökel.
Yeah, I mean, when you go down the track on your final run, you really, really don't want to lose any ranks, and it's just absolutely gutting when you do, and you lift your head up and you can see that you've dropped a rank. But, you know, Ed needs to just move on. He's had a good World Cup, and so Ed actually was a bit too late on the exit of Horseshoe, and he went into telephone too early, which knocked him off, and there he had a hit which was going to affect.
Speed at the bottom. Martineau and Portago, very quick corners. Ed has completed his World Championship, staying with 13 sleds to go. Next up is Ben Sanford. Fresh cut on his chin from the outrun after the finish line yesterday in the first heat. He got pitched off his sled by the foam matting and gouged his chin on the ice.
It's always the outruns.
Yeah,
always
it is always
where everyone's always injured.
6'6" and 205 pounds, 92 kilos of Kiwi.
Yeah. In his final run, he had a ranking of 8th, which was really good for Ben. So he'll be looking to improve on that again as well.
Yeah, yesterday, disappointing one for the Kiwi. 11th and 17th spots, he drifted away from a top 10 finish. If he can get another top 7, 8 slide in here, he could get a lot closer again.
Nice.
Well, he's a long, lean athlete, but he carries a lot of weight on his front because he is so tall, and that helps cut you through the snow.
That was a really good horseshoe, but he was so close to hitting the top of the roof there.
102.8 kilometres an hour. That is the best speed we've seen on the Exeter Horseshoe. Here he comes.
He's just building speed.
39 hundredths up. He's added 12 hundredths in the last 3 corners. Wants to keep the speed up here, avoid hitting the walls, no skids.
That was really good.
Counter steering 136.4. Again, very quick from Ben Sanford. Taps the wall between Martineau and Portago, but a 108.78.
Very good.
Wow, that is 0.4 of a second quicker than his last run alone. So really excelling today. Well, keeps his arms folded in front of him and comes to a halt a little slower on the outrun than it was yesterday by some margin.
That outrun is horrible. It's so prickly with the hard ice, and if you touch it, that's it. You really get some really bad ice burns. So it was really good height in the horseshoe. Just perfect, really. Any higher, he would have hit the roof and it would have sent him down and into the telephone wall too early.
Ben Sanford moves into our leaders box. Raphael Meyer of Austria was Ben's target. Raphael 12th after the first 3 of our 4 heats in this skeleton men's world championship. Martin Haven and women's world champion Shelley Rudman watching the action. Raphael Meyer, one of the youngest athletes in the field, just 20, Shelley, only a 1/10 of a second in front of Ben Sanford. That's going to be hard to defend, maybe.
Yeah, he'll be looking at what Ben's just done and thinking, wow, okay, I've really got to pull one out of the bag here now. You know, he's a young athlete. He's still got loads of years' experience and time. A little bit of a skid there. So he's got loads of years ahead of him to just keep on working on his sliding and his lines and just experiencing different tracks.
Real sliding family. His brother drives bobsled for Austria, as his father did. His father's now the coach of the Austrian bobsled lineup. They've got a sister at home who doesn't slide at all, apparently, so maybe the Austrian coaches need to work on her for a women's skeleton programme. 200s behind Sanford and 101.8, not quite as quick as the Kiwi either, a full kilometre now down. Shelley Rudman talks in the first heat about maybe lack of weight in some of the smaller athletes, allowing the snow to slow them down, affect them more. But, ooh, it's things like that really make the difference.
Exactly, yeah. Doing that at the bottom of the track's not really going to help you, and I wouldn't expect him to hold on to his spot. As you can see anyway, he's in the red, but...
Yep, he's in the red. Only the 5th fastest run.
So a good World Championships for him, though. You know, like I said, he's still really young. He's got loads of championships ahead of him, and this is a real learning experience that he could go away and take the positives and the negatives from it and progress.
Started sliding at the age of 10, now just 20, so a lot more time to go, as you say. get more experience on different tracks, and he's got lots of speed at the start, which helps enormously.
Oh, you can feel for them at the end when they haven't had a really good run and they're like, oh, it's the end of the world, but it's not. You move on. There's another race. There's more World Championships, and
Yep.
I think he'll be happy at the end of the day.
Coach Martin Rettel, I'm sure, can remember when he was making those mistakes. Next up, Matt Antoine of the USA. Well, he lies in 11th place. A top 10 finish is a bit of an ask for him, though, over 4 tenths away from 10th place. Let's see if he can get himself into that magic top 10.
Nicely controlled there.
One of our tallest athletes, Matt, 27 years old, from Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin.
Und 5:01, das seine Startzeiten. 48 Hundertstel.
Good smooth run down these first 2 straights before you get to wall is so critical, Shelley. You might almost want to get off the sled if that's a nightmare.
It's just, it's mentally hard when you make errors and then you think, oh my goodness, I'm not even at horseshoe yet. What's horseshoe going to do? Because if you get horseshoe wrong, it's scary. You know, I've come out of horseshoe, I've hit the roof, come down too soon and crashed into telephone wall and broken my finger here before, and it totally caught me out. So you treat the tracks with respect at all times.
2600s up on Ben Sanford, the current leader, down to 900ths of a second. Almost as tall, almost as heavy as Ben, but not as quick. Sanford had 134 at the bottom, 136 rather.
Wow.
Oh, 133.5. Yep, he's gone behind. Now, can he stay in second place? Or will it be third at the line? It is second place. So Ben Sanford moves on. Well, Ben might yet end up with a top 10. Last World Championships took a bronze medal in Lake Placid.
And these World Championships will be really crucial for funding for a lot of athletes going into Sochi next year, and you know, their ranking and maybe their pre-selection will be dependent on these results.
Again, the high line that you need to dive off and build that speed.
Really nice entrance into telephone there.
Well, there is Matt. Knee surgery last summer has slowed his pace. Ben Sanford leads halfway through the final heat of the Men's Skeleton World Championships from Matt Antoine and Raphael Meyer. 10 sleds to go, and in the 10 is Dom Parsons of Great Britain. Some really huge starts from him. Third quickest in the field on the last run. He'll look for another 4.8 something start.
That's it. Dom doesn't look like he pushes fast, but he really does. He's quite a long, low-piece starter, and he creates quite a lot of power with that.
You see, that's the difference between him and me. I run slowly and I look like it. He runs slowly, but he goes very quickly instead. 56.7 kilometers an hour. Great first corner momentum as well. He was 6 tenths up on Ben Sanford from the first heat. He's extended that to 1.1 seconds, and his run, Shelley, was beaten only by the race leader in that third heat.
Dom had a really, really good first run. It looks like he's having a really good second run. I think so far he'd be really, really happy with this.
Well, 100.4, Ben Sanford was 102.8, so he needs more speed now.
Slightly bleeding time. Can he hold on to it?
Well, he was 200s behind teammate Kristen Bromley after 3 heats, wanting to jump over his teammates. 134.8, that's good speed. But
He'll definitely hold on to this.
He will.
Good run from Dom.
108.98, second fastest run to Ben Sanford. Ben waves goodbye. And so does Andy Schmidt there at the top, but only momentarily, and that confirms that Dom Parsons will finish his first World Championships in the top 10 in the world.
He'll be happy with that. It's good for Dom.
Well, he was second fastest in the world on that third heat, and that may end up being one of the top 4 or 5 as well.
Nice exit.
Didn't quite find the speed down the bottom that he did on the last run, but another exceptional start. There is the Champions Trophy to be awarded for the first time here to Men's Skeleton. Next up, 9th after 3 of our 4 heats, Kristen Bromley. The only other Briton, apart from my colleague in the booth here, to have won a Skeleton World Championship. So it's keeping it in the family.
Our trophy cabinet's quite big now.
Yes, it should be. You might need an extension.
Yeah.
Okay, a 5:01 and 5:03, his last 2 starts. Gets a good bump off the kink, 5:03 getaway.
That's a good start from Kristen. He's been working on that all year with our coach, Mark Campbell, up in Sheffield, and for Sochi. Sochi is a big picture too.
The first run was golden from Kristen, and then 10th and 11th on runs 2 and 3. Can he recapture that first heat form? Shelley, what's he thinking?
He made a couple of teeny little errors. He just wants to improve on those, and it was hard. I thought he had a really good run on his first run, but the time just wasn't quick, so we'll see here.
I always find Kristen so hard to read. Unlike most of the fast sliders, he doesn't have that heels together, rigid aerodynamic form. He likes a bit of a wilder ride, doesn't he, and uses his knees perhaps a little more to control what he's got. 1400s behind, but the gap is coming back.
Come on, Kristen. He really needs this. He really needs to do well.
1400s, 133.9, good speed. Can he close at the line? Can he make it in front of Don Parsons, his teammate?
Oh.
Just not. So it will be a top 10 finish. Brother Richard gasps a little there as he sees the result. And the big cigar as you came across the line for victory yesterday. Kristen just drops a spot. It is not beyond the bounds of possibility that the remaining sliders will also lose ground, though.
So Kristen is going to have to work really hard to find a sponsor for next year.
Top 8 would have been the golden mark for Kristen Bromley. Michelle, of course, although you are partners, you travel together, work together, develop the same sleds, your funding is for your program and you can't split it up, right?
No, our funding's individual, so you know, we've got to perform at these World Championships to secure that funding, and it just sets you up so that you can just relax a little bit going into Sochi and not have any financial worries, and it makes a big difference.
A 4.95 start for our Olympic champion, John Montgomery, and he's got worries of a different nature, trying to work out how to get the sled that fits him properly. This is what Kristen has been doing his whole career. And John just started really building this sled last year when he wasn't sliding, did a little bit of testing. This is now
for sure. There's a lot of development that's going on throughout most of the squads, and Kristen actually rides and tests his equipment, so that's why World Cup results will affect a little bit.
101.3, decent speed from John Montgomery.
It's a good run from John.
He was a couple of tenths up on Don Parsons, adding to that advantage by a fraction more. It's the Mark IV version of the Montgomery sled. I wonder when we meet at the beginning of next season how many more marks he'll have worked through. 135.1, well, he's certainly finding speed at the bottom. Makes a very unusual noise. There's a definite high-pitched whistle with that sled, as opposed to sort of groan that you get as a Bromley sled comes by.
Really?
Yeah, well,
Martin Haven.
The Canadians are celebrating. You don't hear them from trackside, we do.
I'm on it.
Well, we talked about Olympic funding with Kristen, and I think that is a very important benchmark for the Canadian. The Olympic champion blasts off in a 4.95, still starting top 5, top 6 in the world.
Look how happy they are.
Yeah. Coach is loving that. Monty with lots to think about still. He's been such good fun on the track and in the booth all season long. Next up is his teammate Eric Nielsen, and Eric 1800ths of a second in front of the Olympic champion, and from Calgary, originally from Kelowna, British Columbia. Last year World Cup rookie, standout season, and again really looking strong in the World Championships, and part of it is his speed at the start, 4.93, and here in these snowy conditions another big athlete, lots of mass on that sled helps.
Well, at each run he's actually improved, so in his third run he finished in 4th rank. So he'll be pretty optimistic going into this run, trying to improve on that or maintain it.
Yeah, he's gone 10th fastest, 6th fastest, 4th fastest. So he's really dialing himself into this track, and that's the sort of progression, unless you're going to be first, that's what you want. Oh, good speed, look at that, 102, first time we've seen that. And again, Shelley, so quiet on his sled.
Yeah, he's got really, really good form on his sled. His head's low, his shoulders are down, and you know, for quite a big guy, it might seem easy, but it's quite hard to hold your form when you're quite a big, big-shouldered guy. He'll laugh when he hears me say that after.
He's always laughing. Whoa, another big impact with the wall. Still hasn't got the exit of Portago sorted out, but 108.63. He will be the top Canadian in the World Championships this year. And again, really, I'm sure, clicking in funding for the Canadian program.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm sure he's got some funding from that. It'd be interesting to see.
Well, Eric, never anything other than fun. Okay, his final corner, gets it high, carries speed.
Second fastest speed, that's brilliant. Really, really good driving.
World Championship PB for Eric Nielsen. He is the top Canadian, beats out world champion, Olympic champion rather, John Montgomery.
It was unbelievable. Oh, man.
A lot of love for the Canadian athletes. A lot of love too from John Daly's family. You saw them lining the fences there. The US athlete in 6th spot.
He has a lot of support out here, and he's even got his British girlfriend who used to be part of the British skeleton program out here supporting him.
5.01 and a 55.8 first corner speed. Now, he is one of the lighter athletes. He's very quick over the ice, but just 80 kilos, 170 odd pounds.
So he's bleeding a little bit of time at the moment over Eric. He's 2300ths behind.
Well, he started 800s back, but that momentum is going to take a while to find.
A little bit low in his horseshoe, but he exited really nicely.
This could play very well for Eric Nielsen. They were tied exactly to the 100th of a second in 6th position after the last heat. 1:02.3, a whisker quicker than Nielsen. How much can he come back? Nielsen 1:35.6 at the bottom, Shelley.
If he gets a top 6, he gets his funding, so he's going to be driving.
1:34.8, a little slower. No. He's going to stay behind the Canadian. Eric Nielsen will lead with 5 to go, and John Daly in 2nd spot by 1800ths. Well, tough break perhaps for John Daly, and Coach Tuffy Latour applauding a performance that almost, but not quite, kept him in that top rank. And seeing the two fingers being held up, heartbreaking for Daly.
It is so frustrating when you've got a target to hit, and you know, and the weather's just a little bit volatile. It's hard. So there you see, he exited that corner really, really nicely there, and it actually helped. You know, you can easily come out and hit right, and it blows your speed.
Eric Nielsen leads from John Daly with 5 to go. 5 sleds remain here in the Men's Skeleton World Championships here in St. Moritz. Thomas Ducours, 4th overnight, only the 10th fastest run for his 3rd effort. Very disappointing, gave away ground and let Frank Rommel in to challenge for the medals. This can make the Spurs.
Goodness.
And it could not possibly have gone worse for Thomas Ducours.
This will be really interesting now, what he does. He might have the ride of his life, or he might just totally mess it up, but it looks like he's got his composure again.
Well, inevitably, when you are looking to try and get a World Championship medal, you can leave nothing behind, and he will have exploded out the blocks, Shelley, like never before.
He would have really gone for it to try and gain up what he had missed on his start, and he would have just exploded out of the start blocks, and that's what happened. He popped the groove, is what we call it.
Well, you never want to see somebody else's misfortune handing you something, but John Daly may benefit from this. 101.2 kilometers an hour, nowhere near the speed he was producing yesterday for Thomas Ducours. In 4th spot at the moment, behind Eric Nielsen, John Daly and John Montgomery. Well, a horror story of a final run for Thomas Ducours, but he keeps his mind on the task in hand at 83.5 miles an hour. You absolutely have to. A 1:09.35, his 11th fastest in the heat, but there's just nothing you can do but sympathise for him.
He did really well to recover that, and it's your worst nightmare, that.
What's the one thing about this sport, Shelley, is you're not on the track at the same time as anyone else. No one else can affect your race. It's just you and the ice, and here, the ice gets him.
Yeah, he totally exploded out the blocks. He was actually running really well, but look, when he loaded, he pushed to the left, and then the sled popped out of the groove.
And he's overshot, he's over the saddle, so he didn't have the control to get it back into the groove on the other side, and that's heartbreaking.
If that happened earlier on in the start groove, it would have slipped into the left groove.
Well, it overshot because he was trying to wrestle himself back on.
The groove had run out as well.
Okay, well, the drama is not over here in St. Moritz. 4 to go. Can Germany's Frank Rommel get in amongst the medals? This could be massive for him. If he can outrace the remaining 3 guys, he might have a chance, but it's a big if. He's 3 tenths away from a bronze.
That was the same start as his first run.
Well, Rommel is such a great aerodynamic slider. Has he got the ability to find speed here to put himself among the medals?
Little correction.
Since December 2010, only this man has beaten Martins Ducours in any top-class skeleton race.
He hasn't had the best horseshoe there. It's quite interesting how he can accelerate the sled from now onwards.
55.5 first corner speed, 102.2. That's good speed. He found great bottom-end speed.
Yeah, he's starting to drive it.
He needs not 134s, he needs 136s, and he's not going to get it. Eric Nielsen might rise another spot. He's still not in the lead. And this is going to be heartbreak for the German. He comes across the line in 3rd place behind Nielsen and John Daly. So John Daly, who finished in the depths of despair, is 2nd with only 3 sleds to go. Not only does he get into the top 6, he gets into the top 5. Rommel is... That was only the
joint second.
Joint second. They are tied for 2nd. It lined him up on our screen below John Daly. Too much information for my feeble brain. Oh.
Wow, there's lots of things happening now with these top guys like it did on the first run.
Oh, tough for Frank Rommel. He gave it everything and he knows it.
So
3 to go. Have we done with the drama? Have the scriptwriters got more twists? What will happen to Sergei Chudinov?
Well, he'll be trying to improve on his first run, that's for sure, because he went 3rd, 3rd and 15th over his 3 runs.
And still didn't drop out of 3rd spot with that 15th fastest run, but it was close. He needs something better. 4.88, he knows the pressure's on. That's a 1/10 of a second better than he's started so far.
He doesn't have much grip.
Well, he needs to keep that result in the green on the bottom of your screen. Half a second up when he loaded over Frank Rommel, near as darn it.
Right, he's approaching his horseshoe soon. In the first run, he hit it. That'll be a bit of a mental challenge now to try and correct that for this second run.
Now, his gap, of course, is over leader Eric Nielsen, and that was 4 tenths after the first 3 heats. He's still got that 4 tenths intact.
Better.
Well, he doesn't get that wrong. Okay, he is going to lead at the bottom. 102.5. Good speed. Have I just cursed him?
He had a bit of a skid going into Devil's Dyke. We'll see.
He can't give away 4 tenths of a second. Surely, he's still got 4200s. He had that out of Sonny. He is holding off Eric Nielsen. He is going to put himself in the medals. 135 kilometers an hour is enough. Sergei Chudinov is going to claim his first ever World Championship medal.
Wow.
108.66. Nielsen may not be out of it yet, but the Russians have a first World Championship medal guaranteed. Wow-wee, big result for Sergei Chudinov. That is massive for him.
Congratulations.
Well, the 28-year-old has barely been in the top 10 in a World Championships before now. Look at this, a long skid.
He corrected really well, though. From his first run to his second run, the difference is just incredible. His first run was shocking. And here's the man.
Here's the man. Can he do it? This is the man who you could not get odds on to win this championship. He's such a favourite every time he comes to the track. Favourite in terms of the bookies and in terms of the crowd. And the man that other athletes look to see what he's doing.
He will be going for it on this one.
Oh, yeah. 4.81 seconds. Well, he's been outstarted every run by the man who leads. He won't care if he can get the gold medal at the end of this run. It's now or never for Martins Ducours. He's got a massive margin to close down, though, to the leader, Alexander Tretyakov.
And you could see the focus in his eyes approaching wall. He's a man on a mission here to try and recoup what had happened in the first run.
46 hundredths of a second back. He's got to find nearly half a second in 1 minute and 6 seconds of sliding. It seems almost impossible.
Very quiet on the sled.
Great speed, 103.3, but Tretyakov will be fast as well. Ducours needs supersonic speed at the bottom here. What can Superman produce?
He is just building speed now and building speed.
Oh, a little skid. He has to correct as well between leap and sacks. 136.7. Is it going to be enough? He will take the lead. Brushes the wall, and that might make a big difference in the end. Wow. 107.80, the fastest run we've seen in the competition. And yesterday there was no snow on the track. That is Martin Ducours' final answer to what Alexander Tretyakov has done in the first 3 heats. He leads with just Tretyakov's response to come. Oh my goodness!
He corrected absolutely everything from his first run. The difference from his first run is perfect. Really good. He'll be proud to finish on a really, really good run there.
Yes. He'll finish on a high, win, lose or draw. And now, for Alexander Tretyakov, destiny beckons. A year out from Sochi, almost to the week, he has the chance to put Martin Ducours back into second place for the first time in over 2 calendar years. Can he seize that opportunity? The start, 4.78 seconds. He outstarts Ducours again, and now he's just got to sit on this lead and not make a mistake.
He's our Usain Bolt of the sliding world in the sprinting terms. He's so fast.
He is so fast. The difference is, it's not just about the sprint here. He's got to hang on. Drifts a little from Snake into Sunny. The gap's down to 34 hundredths.
Oh!
The gap will come down a tenth with that hit in Nash and Dixon. Oh my goodness, this might come down to the 100th of a second. 102.8, 103.3 was the speed for Ducours.
He's struggling on his lines a little bit.
Steering hard as he comes out of Devil's Dyke. 11 hundredths of a second. Ducours, 136.7. Tretyakov cannot afford any less than that. Steering with both legs, 136.0. It's going to come to the 100th of a second. Who is going to win? Is it Russian or the Latvian? And it is Tretyakov, 300ths of a second. The Russian coaches are jubilant. 300ths of a second. They win their first Skeleton World Championship, and Alexander Tretyakov finally has beaten Martin Ducours on the biggest stage of the season.
That's incredible. No pressure going to Sochi.
Wow, what drama for the final run of the Men's Skeleton World Championships. I didn't think it could get that close. My goodness, what a finish. Shelley, have you ever seen such a close finish?
No, I mean, some of the World Cup races are quite close, but not for a World Championships.
4 runs down a 1,722-metre track. This is 5 miles of polished ice. They are 300ths of a second apart at the end of it. With Shelley Rudman, it took you a moment or two to compose yourself yesterday after winning the gold. You know now exactly what Alex is feeling.
Yeah, you don't know what to expect. I mean, I'm a bit of a realist, and until it's finished, that's my result. I can't foresee anything. Well,
now, we were lucky to grab you for the booth because you've been on the TV, the radio, in the press, and we're not holding the Winter World Olympic Games in a year from now. We're not going to see him for dust. Alexander Tretyakov is our world champion by a tiny margin, less than 100th of a second for each of the 4 runs ahead of Martin Ducours. Sergei Chudanov makes it Russia 1-3. And what a result as well for John Daly, Eric Nielsen, Frank Rommel, all in the top half dozen. Tom Parsons and Kristen Bromley, 9th and 10th. for Great Britain, and Ed Smith in 15th place in his first World Championship performance. Well, you can see lots of Russian jackets down there. In the bright pink hat, our junior world champion, the fastest starter in the women's field, Yelena Nikitina. But let's get down to their teammates at the bottom. John Morgan is with our top three.
Okay, here in Switzerland, they don't give away flowers, they give away champagne, and so here we are, and into our interviews. Sergey, your first World Championship medal. Great result.
Да, хороший результат. Я к нему стремился, я готовился. Ну, была интрига в первом заезде, но ничего.
Congratulations. He's very, very happy, obviously. And now over to Superman. Boy, the last heat. Don't you wish you could have had a couple of them?
Yeah, and especially today, first run, that was something outstanding, really bad run, but that's the race, and that makes sports interesting. Thanks all for cheering. I saw some sponsors also here, and thank you very much for my team, and I'm happy, still happy.
What a great sportsman. Now, the first Russian World Championship in skeleton.
Большое спасибо, я очень счастлив. Не могу это описать. Большое спасибо всем тренерам, механикам, врачам, массажистам, всему персоналу. Это наша общая победа, наш общий результат. Большое спасибо всем, кто болел за меня в России, переживал. Thank you very much.
He's very, very emotional. I've interviewed him a lot. I couldn't understand all of that, but I could tell there was a lot of emotion in his voice. Congratulations.
Congratulations indeed. The 2013 Bauhaus FIBT Men's Skeleton World Champion, Alexander Tretyakov. And if Shelley Rudden was emotional yesterday after her win, then Tretyakov will be doubly so, I think, today. My thanks to Shelley for joining us in the booth here. Thanks to you too for watching. Wherever you are, don't forget we have four-man bobsleigh to round out this World Championship fortnight, finishing tomorrow. Till then, on behalf of the whole crew here, I'm Martin Haven. Goodbye. We'll see you for the final time in Switzerland tomorrow.